All right, we continue with this conversation. We're now joined by wits Professor John Stremlau. Good afternoon, Professor. Thank you very much for joining us on the program. So, Professor, President Donald Trump has hailed their operation as a stunning display of the competence of the United States, while we've had other world leaders who have gone in to condemn this specific operation, stating that it is an egregious violation of international law. Your take on this?
Well, I defer to Iraj for the economics and to Ronald Lamola for the foreign policy, but I think that the companies are going to be very, very cautious, and I think that the South African effort to convene a UN Security Council is a right way to go because this is an offense to the sovereign equality. But at the same time, we don't have international law that's enforceable by any court because we are a world of sovereign states, and the powerful will reign to some extent. But South Africa's voice on containing that is welcome, and whether it's Russia invading Ukraine or now the U.S. invading Venezuela. But I want to draw a distinction between Zelensky and Maduro. Maduro is a bad actor, and this indictment that has been floating around since 2020 in U.S. courts is symptomatic of their concern that drug imports to the United States are dangerous to the well-being of Americans, and that he should not have taken over control of Venezuela. And I think that one of the things that South Africa should consider is Corina Machado. Yes, the wonderful woman who championed democracy in Venezuela and won the Nobel Peace Prize this year for that, or last year for that. And that's a very good standard to push now for deferring to the citizens of Venezuela to decide.
But Professor, when you speak of Corina Machado, who is, as you say, a winner of the Nobel Peace Prize, if we listen to the presser this weekend from President Donald Trump, he all but decimated her character and legitimacy as an activist in Venezuela. So when it comes to her, one wonders whether he would even endorse her, given what he said. But then also to take you to when you say that when we speak of the erstwhile leader of Venezuela, we speak of him, and you say that he's a bad actor. But the UN Charter, though, asserts that even if somebody's a bad actor, the use of force is permissible only in self-defense or with the authorization of the Security Council. But on the face of it, it seems America did not meet any of these requirements. So in that instance, what becomes of that if many are saying it's probably a violation of international law?
Well, it is a violation of international law, but international law is non-enforceable, and in this case, and South Africa recognizes that. Ronald Lamola is, after all, a lawyer, and it's very different than if you break the law in South Africa or you break the law internationally, we have seen that South Africa has championed multilateralism, and Donald Trump is mired in the 19th century of multipolarity and balance of power. And I think that his efforts to assert American hegemony over Latin America ought to be countered, and it will be countered in the Security Council discussions. but the U.S. and will, just like Russia, veto anything that challenges their use of force, even if the purposes are very different. And that's the reality that South Africa is struggling to overcome. And I think bilateralism consensus is the way to go. And I would urge Durko to reach out to Machado and other Democrats in South Africa and in Venezuela and encourage them to assert themselves and to do it in a constructive way, with knowledge that there are friends out there like South Africa that support principled civic action.
But then I want to take you to the oil conversation itself, because when we talk about the situation around oil, we know that Venezuela is the largest, or rather has the largest reserves in the world, around 303 billion barrels. The industry, we know, was officially nationalized back in 1976. This was under President Carlos Perez. So as it stands now, that industry is nationalized. We heard Donald Trump stating that you had American companies that were kicked out, their infrastructure taken, and now they're going back in. But as it stands, we've got a country that has this policy of nationalization. You've got Delcy Rodriguez, who's now president. You've also got parliament that hasn't been dissolved. So how would Donald Trump come in when there's still a policy of nationalization and bring those American companies there?
Look, I'm not going to explain Donald Trump's behavior, but I think you're raising some very good points. And Raj Abedian, I will defer to, but I think that the companies will be very cautious in re-engaging Venezuela. I don't know, obviously, what consultations went on between Rubio's people and the companies, but the Secretary of State and who has a personal interest in this because he is Hispanic, and nevertheless, it is very, very difficult to predict what Donald Trump is doing, but I think that South Africa sticks to its principles as it has in dealing with the Americans. It's on the right side of the issues, and that will be recognized by the Democrats, both the small D's and the big D's, capital D's, and in the U.S. domestic politics, which is really the determining factor that is so important in a sovereign equality world.
All right, Professor, it's always a pleasure talking to you on the show. That's Vice Professor John Stremlau speaking to us on the developments in Venezuela and the United States.